I figured just before we did like a tour, I'd be able to just kind of get you guys acclimated to the space even. Hey, I'm just saying hi to the camera. Thanks for coming by. This is kind of like what I do here. Hey, what's up? You want some tea?
Actually, I do.
Yeah.
I haven't
Let's
tried
pour up.
tea.
Welcome, come on down to Moringaville.
Like
I
warm.
always make it like a hot tea. I mean, I mix the powder up in the morning with a bunch of other stuff and take some vitamins and supplements and stuff.
Alright, we're just getting started. Alright, perfect. I was gonna get everybody acclimated to the space by just giving like a little drawing of the property.
Okay.
I'm an architect, so I kind of like to draw.
Alright.
But we got some water here and some moringa tea. So if you want to try some tea. Uncle Bob makes this tea here. He just kind of steeps the leaves in water. And then we fridge it. I'll just try a little sample. It's got yerba mate, a little bit of yerba mate too.
What is it?
Yerba mate. Just like another herb. It does have a little caffeine. You want to try it? It's up to you guys.
You go.
Yeah, sure.
I'll try.
Yeah, we got a little bit right there for you, Ed. So I worked here like 5 years ago. This was a property that I just kind of like stumbled across. I was painting my van on the beach, and guy walked by and he's like, "You got a nursery?" And it was the day after I painted Numa Nursery on the van, and I'm at the beach, and he's like, "Well, I have a nursery. You should come by and check it out." 2014, painting the van on the beach. And then I went to go see his nursery like 2 weeks later, and I left that day with a job. And then we became friends. He had a nursery. His dad helped him build a nursery, and this was his dad's place. So I'm buying this from my friend's dad.
Cool.
Wow.
So yeah, I worked here 5 years ago for his dad, and then kind of finished graduation. I finished my master's in architecture 4 years ago, and then since then I've been building this nursery business. I had a store out in St. Pete for 2 years, and then I was harvesting some moringa trees right down the street from here about a year ago. Actually 1 year ago exactly this month. I was harvesting some trees down the street from here, and I went to the gas station and I ran into my friend David that I met at the beach. He's like, "Yo, what's up?" Of course I'm gonna run into you in Plant City. He's from Plant City. So we ran into each other. He sees the van at the store. He pulls it, he skirts in. He's like, "What's up, Kendrick?" And then literally, he's like, "My dad's place is for sale, and nobody's living there right now if you want it." 2 weeks later, I moved in, and we've been here ever since. It's been like 10 months.
That's great.
That's for you, man.
Thank you. So it's chill.
This in the lives.
Yeah, we love it. We love it here. It's like quiet. We went through quarantine here, so I actually just filmed every day during quarantine, and now we have like about 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, just from me doing whatever I was doing during quarantine. I was just here. I was farming, getting the nursery going, and then having people just come by one by one. That's when we started doing appointments. So now we see people one by one every day between 10 and 2. We have appointments. People are coming in, getting their moringa. And that way we can still see the community, even though all the farmers markets closed down. Like our business, so what happened in March was we were at farmers markets making about $1,000 to $2,000 a weekend at farmers markets off of the moringa products, and that was keeping us going. The pandemic hit, and then we all the farmers markets shut down, so we had no form of income. I didn't know what I was going to do. But luckily, 5 months prior, a guy came out here and interviewed me, and he has like 700,000 subscribers on YouTube. So he actually posted that video like the first weekend of quarantine, because it was 5 months past and he had to stop what he was doing, and he actually had a chance to come out with the videos that he had already filmed So mine was in the backlog because he's out traveling and he's doing the thing. Posted the video that weekend. We made $5,000 in sales. We had over 100 orders just in an hour off of him interviewing me here and showing and telling our story about how we started the co-op and how we have our products from local trees. So before you guys came, actually, we set these sticks down right here so that way we could sprout those sticks, and we're gonna cover them in soil. And those are from last week's harvests. So we cut the trees out in the neighborhood, and then we come here and we make sure nothing goes to waste. So all the pieces that didn't make it, those are going to make soil. All the pieces that we can cut, make cuttings, those will make trees. So we'll cover that in soil, and then in a month from now, they all have roots. I can pick them up and I can put them wherever I want. You know. So if you want to have a seat, yeah, we have a seat too. But I was gonna just go through here. So we have some designs of the property so far. So when we first got here, we were like, holy crap. Basically, if everybody can see here, this is the property here. It's 2.5 acres. And this is essentially, right now, this is the headquarters for the Moringa Growers Co-op. And we're gonna start by putting the trees directly in the ground here, but also in the pots. Hopefully this is big enough so you can see. Sorry, of course I have to have a product placement in the video. But maybe we can move this aside a little bit. Is that okay?
Yeah.
A little bit better? And you can crowd in, it's fine, I don't mind. Okay. So we have the border here of the property. Maybe I have another one. And so this would be 2.5 acres right there. We're sitting here in the porch right there. And it's a clean slate. It used to be a native plant nursery. So when I met my friend and we lived down the street from here for 2 years, I actually moved in with him, started working as a nursery hand for him in his nursery as I was going to school. And that's because when I graduated school, I wanted to have my own nursery, and I had to be self-sufficient. From the time that I graduated, I was not going to be able to depend on a job. There's no way. Architects, they make maybe 20, 30, maybe 40,000, 60, 70 hours a week in a basement doing windows, doors, and stairs, you know, for somebody else. And they don't even get seen for like 20, 30 years. I said, I don't have the desire to do that. You know, I just wanted to get the piece of paper from my parents and get out. But how can I use the skills that I learned in architecture school to become my own architect so I don't have to work for somebody? I can architect my life. And so now I'm empowered to become a land developer, you know, start my own architecture studio. And this as my first property. What's he saying? What you seeing, buddy? You see a cat?
Oh, that's exactly.
Gandhi! We got farm kitties here.
Okay. Guard dog. Cat's bigger than that.
Yeah, so
Cat's bigger than that.
so my friend's dad actually, he grew Walters viburnum. So when we would come here, this is the driveway, the current driveway. I would come and he would just have dirt, soil dropped off on the driveway, all along this driveway. And I would spend my days here just potting up into 15-gallon pots, Walters viburnum, Simpson stoppers, and then he even transitioned after I was like, you should do food, into feijoa, which is a cranberry. It's like a small guava. It's like an edible guava. It's a miniature guava. They're like the size of silver dollars. These little guava. The plant is
What's it called?
feijoa. There's another name for it. It's I forgot. The fruit is feijoa. But it's a bushy tree that he actually planted this whole place out and then sold it all. So I had a chance to see this progression. So we worked here, and he had a pathway. He had like there's a pathway here. So he created like a pathway that comes down here, and then that comes here in front of the trees with his bulldozer. He had like a tractor, and so he would pick his trees up and he would move them. So I'd be potting them up here, and then we would put them out in the field. And all of this was nursery. All of this was all nursery. So all of this is ground cover currently. This is all ground cover right now. When we got here, this was all ground cover. The grass was 6 foot high. It had been abandoned. This place was abandoned for 2 years. And for the last 6-7 months, I have been removing the pots that they just left in the fields. And then I mounted everything up, cut the grass back, flattening everything back out. We're just starting with a clean slate now. So here we are 10 months in, and we still haven't cleaned the property up yet. But at least we have now kind of like really clean. Uncle Bob, he's a landscaper, so like he helps with keeping the grass cut and trimming and just beautifying the property, so that way I can keep doing what I'm doing, seeing customers, and we're making products, and we're training people that coming in here every day about moringa. And also, I wanted to use this opportunity to just do this on camera for the first time. So thank you for just letting me just do this too, because this is my passion right here, wanting to get into the design. So we have this property here, and you can kind of see I already kind of laid out some lines. One of the first things that architects will do is kind of extend the lines on anything that's already existing to maybe kind of get like an idea of where we could tie other things in that might fit into the property. Like circulation is one thing. Where's your public spaces and your private spaces? And so we've just been kind of waiting to feel it out and see this kind of plan. So we want to do a few things. You know, we want to grow moringa in the ground. We want to grow moringa in pots. And we want to have, you know, a food forest, you know, possibly. So I have like 10 months kind of worth of sketches and ideas that we've been kind of laying out, little ideas here and there. But I'll just kind of run through where we kind of like what we've developed into now really beautifully. And if you guys have any ideas when you're out there and we have a talk, I would love to just take some notes. And if you guys see something that I'm not seeing, let me know, because I like to get everybody's input. You know, we really want to create like a really beautiful space with like a purpose, like a yoga or meditation. You know, how can we incorporate at least 10 different invisible structures, meaning businesses that can operate here, to make this a really effective and profitable farm? It's 2.5 acres, and I'm thinking at this, you know, this day and age with inflation, everything that's about to happen, we need to make $1 million off of an acre. We need to make $1 million a year off of each acre. So we need to make $2.5 million a year here on this property. How? Like, you know, how do we do that? Well, it's not just what we grow in the ground, but it's also cultivating the people and the entertaining aspects and the healing and the holding space for different things. And so what kind of structures do we need to build here to be able to develop that over the next 5 to 10 years? Because I'm looking at this as like an investment property. Okay, so I kind of have little ideas here that I've been kind of working with, and I'll just kind of go through one by one little things here. I really like this one because I lighten it up a little bit. That's a little bit smaller. So, you know, given that this is the main property, the main structure, you know, the farmhouse, maybe thinking, you know, maybe I can, because I need to be the face and the traveler, and also promoting the business and the farm, and I may removing myself directly from the main house and maybe have something outside, like a tiny home that I could stay in here if I'm here. Maybe this isn't my main property, but this is a place where I have a manager, a farm manager that also has people in the house that are working, renters, maybe wolfers. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the wolf program. It's worldwide organization for organic farmers. It's an acronym. It's called WOOF, WWOOF. And I actually I was a participant in this program, WOOF, and I farmed moringa in Cambodia for several weeks. And I lived on the farm in a barn. Essentially, we had goats and cows living right underneath of me. I was upstairs in the barn in Cambodia. And I did that as part of the wolfing program so that way I could learn how to farm moringa trees in other countries. And I just wanted to get out. I had just graduated and I was like, I gotta get out of here. So I busted out and went to Cambodia. First thing I did, like the first year I graduated. I spent the whole first year after graduation just traveling.
And you said 2 weeks in Cambodia?
I was there for about 2-3 weeks. 2 weeks probably on the farm, and then 3 weeks, 4 weeks traveling, getting there. You know, we stayed in Shanghai for a little while, and you know, traveled all through Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a pretty awesome trip. Got to see Angkor Wat, everything. So, bringing that knowledge back and seeing, you know, how the farmer, you know, used that space to house woofers, I also want to have this as a similar experience because it was really great for me. I learned a lot there. I was in it with other woofers and just the workers of the property that came and stayed. We all got to hang out every day. So I'm thinking about that as a zone. So when we have the house zone, you know, and also given the permaculture structure, I don't know if you guys have studied permaculture, you know, wanting to have like these invisible rings on the property starting from this kind of focal point and using maybe the sun, you know, knowing that this is north over here. So, you know, how do we start assessing a property when you first come to a property and you kind of have like a clean slate? You can see these little dots here are all the trees on the property. So we've got 2 trees back there that are really nice. We've got 2 trees here in the back corner that kind of shade this area. We've got a nice border hedge right here that's shading kind of this house that's just right here. We're sitting here, you know, in the porch, and we have the drive path now where everybody's kind of parked, kind of like right here. So we want to have a farm and we want to have a nursery, and we want to be able to supply that nursery from the farm. So we want to be able to take cuttings from that farm and we want to be able to put that in pots, and we want to be able to sell those pots. So that way we always have a flow. I love the Fibonacci sequence and the spiral and the Fibonacci circle, you know, like the law of thirds. Designers and architects and people, everybody, we're all kind of based on this law, Fibonacci law. Like if you take the size of this joint right here, that's 1/3, and then 2/3 would be the size of your finger. Same thing with your wrist, which is 1/3, and then take that, potentially would be 1/3 versus 2/3, and then it goes through your whole body. Like your head is 1/3 of your torso, and your you know, the distance between your ankles and your heel is 1/3 of your knee, of your foot and your leg. So it's like all of those into play, kind of like seeing this. Maybe, you know, there also is like a pathway already kind of here, this central corridor that kind of already like plays out on the property. And so not wanting to change, you know, too much of what's already kind of existing here, knowing how we already kind of worked and use this space. What can we do first and foremost? Well, we got through the first winter with this greenhouse. So we put our first greenhouse up right here, just because we didn't want it to be, you know, in the way of anything. But also wanted to create space. You can see how I positioned it there to where it creates a room in this area right here, where now this is a focal point, and now you're inside that central gathering space, but that greenhouse kind of creates that room there. So that's also our goal here too, is to think about scale and space, and I like to, you know, keep lines of sight, always keeping lines of sight, like where you are right now, being able to see all the way down that line there. We wanted to keep that clean, we wanted to keep that clear. And so that's what this is right here, even just this line right here. So we didn't really want to construct anything, you know, down this line here. We wanted to keep that line kind of clean, you know. So right now there's a small little shed. Terrible location. It takes off our circulation, where I don't even use that part of the deck because I can't even walk through there. It's just a waste of space. So that's what this little deck here, this little shed here is, and we might want to move it. So I was also wanting to get like really creative and like do circles and spirals. I have a design here where, you know, you can kind of see where I started this Fibonacci spiral sequence here, but almost it's just like telling a story. You know, there's layers to the design. So we might start with something and it might evolve into something else, but that's okay. That's a part of the process. As long as you're starting something and you're getting something down, it really helps just kind of get ideas. I'll wake up in the morning and be like, oh man, what about this? Sketch it out. But we have time. We've just been wanting to clean it out. We didn't have to do anything really right away. We just maybe needed to get a greenhouse up for the wintertime, and that's what we did. So we were kind of thinking of keeping the lines, hey, welcome. Keeping the lines of sight open, farming, not wanting to get too crazy, always knowing that whatever is done here is just temporary too. It's not forever. Even if we put things in the ground, we can always move it. But thinking 5 years, 10 years down the line, what can we really do? And how can we make money? As things are shifting, I was like, well, we're definitely going to have to be transitioning more online, like shipping plants, small plants through the mail. And so I was really thinking about a lot of greenhouses. How do we get a bunch of greenhouses here, protect them over the winter? Because moringa doesn't really do well in the wintertime, especially here. It gets a little bit colder. Hi there, welcome. Hey, I'm just kind of doing like a little design charrette.
Alright.
I'm an architect, so I like to draw and show people, you know, how things are flowing on the property. So welcome.
Thank you.
You can see here I got some plans out. This is 2.5 acre property here. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, you can take a look. Just some ideas that we've been just kind of talking about. This is the house here, and you guys just drove up the driveway. But we're trying to figure out what to do with this 2.5 acre property here. So we have a farm and pretty much a clean slate right now. We have a cleared land. We're clearing it all out. This was previously a plant nursery. My friend's dad owned this place. And so now we've been cleaning it out and we want to go ahead and get started. So what do? We want to be able to provide for ourselves, make some profit, but also we want to keep in mind pollinators. You know, we want to keep in mind bees. You know, we want to have bees on the farm. You know, so what are some of the products that we can make here? We kind of already established that we might need to make, you know, about $1 million an acre in order for this to be kind of sustainable, you know. So we're at 2.5 acres, and how do we make $2.5 million a year off of 2.5 acres? I don't know. I'm going to try to probably pack as much in here as I can, but also doing things like this where people can come and we can talk, but also have an opportunity to show the products that we make here on the farm, and we can learn about the moringa trees and plants. So I kind of started off with just this little greenhouse over here in the corner, and then was kind of thinking maybe a few more greenhouses. So what we're going to probably do here is have like a little succession of greenhouses in this little area here that are staggered, that go all the way back like that. Can you kind of see that? I know I'm lefty, and I'll probably just do a little darker color here. So we're gonna give a tour after this, and I'll show you guys around so you guys can kind of see what we're doing. But we're gonna start probably with these greenhouses just in this back corner here, and see how they're staggered. It kind of addresses the circulation line that I was talking about. But also, if this was the road, if this was another road that people could come down, there's 2 trees here. There's like a nice big tree here, and there's like a nice big tree here. I'm kind of already thinking keeping that central corridor, you know, maybe having lines of trees along that edge. Imagine that looking like a nice kind of like palisade, you know, like a boulevard, something with trees along the side. And then bringing people down. The reason why I opened this up, because I was like, man, we should maybe even keep it straight. But then we're really playing with this circulation in here. You know, we have a sewage runoff here. This is the, what do you call that?
Drain field?
Yeah, the drain field. So this is the sewage, and that's the drain field right there. And so wanting to come around that, there's this really nice tree right here. And so what I was really thinking was to get this flow, because we've had some trucks come back here. It gets a little bit wet. It's like, man, what do we do? And I just moved this mound of dirt. It literally took me like a whole week to move this mound of dirt that was back here. We're still cleaning the property. I've been here now 10 months and we're still cleaning up. So we spent the whole winter cleaning up, and now we're getting into the summer and really starting to really come up with a design. So what I was thinking is even just keeping this roundabout like this. So that way that is much more of an area where trucks, trailers can come in, pull around. We've got the well here. This is a well. You'll see back there. There's a box back there where the well goes down 150 feet and it pulls water out of the ground, and that's how we get water on the property, through a well. So that's right there, and we're thinking circulation wise, we'll bring the vehicles back. And that way they can have a nice roundabout out here. And then from there we kind of really maybe thought of some sort of privacy, somehow maybe bringing in maybe a fencing mechanism, something here like a border, kind of addressing the entrance. Maybe some plants here along this front edge to kind of really create like a nice protection. Maybe like a gate, maybe have some sort of gate there in the front, because people come in, 11 o'clock at night. Where's my moringa? Got the farm managers wanting to take a break. So, possibly just thinking about that and creating like another kind of roundabout here. You can see we put some turmeric in this raised bed in front of the house here, in this tree here. This is all turmeric.
That's what all that is?
Yeah, we've got red turmeric, purple, blue, green, yellow.
Underneath that, those tall people. Those tall plants.
Yeah, that's all turmeric. Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. So we've got like 10, 15 different varieties of turmeric in those raised beds there. And so that's this tree right here. And so we were kind of like, do we make this like a full roundabout here? And then being able to use that fence row as also an opportunity to stage other plants in and around here and kind of create like a nice little flowy kind of garden around the house, and that'll be our herbs. This is kind of like a food forest little system here. We have places where people can come in and hang out. We'll have lots of plants inside here, but then, cars can drive down and then come in, like bigger cars and trucks can have this here as an entrance. So this would be essentially like 1.5 acres, and this is about 1 acre. So this plot is about 1 acre here, and then this plot here is about 1.5 acres here. And maybe even a little farm stand in the front entrance as people can come down. Maybe that's where we keep our fruits and veggies and people can come in and check in. Maybe a little parking all along this here. And then this is where we started to establish our farm, our moringa farm. So out of all these designs and 10 months of like, hey, let's do some Fibonacci spirals, let's do circles, let's do something like an alien field, what do they call those, crop field. Let's do some crop circles. Let's get crazy with it, man. I'm an architect. I got to do something wild. I got to get my name out there. So I kind of like had these ideas of yin and yang, amphitheaters. There's a creek actually that runs back here. There's like a little creek that runs back here. So it kind of like goes low here, and then it kind of goes low here. So these are some of the things that when you come to a property, starting to think about the sun. This is east and this is west. So the sun's starting over here and it's kind of going over this way. This is the south facing side. So the sun is also going to be taking lower angles in the winter time, right? So we're thinking about the sun as it's traveling across this property. In the summer now, it's kind of like this. It actually kind of like turns like this right over top. And this actually gets shady over here in the summertime, you know, about 4 or 5 o'clock. But then the sun kind of comes back and it like really starts to go low in the wintertime. So when you're always, when you know, thinking about your plants and what you're going to place, like these turmerics and gingers, they love it shady like this, you know, under the trees. Very good understory plant to grow. So we want to utilize all the existing trees for those types of things. And then, so we talked about the greenhouse. The greenhouses, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 greenhouses. I really love to build pergolas. I love pergolas. I want to kind of stage like a pergola in front of each greenhouse. Pergolas are a really good way of just kind of staging a seating area, working area, hangout area. I like spaces. I like small spaces. 10 by 10s are really cool. Create a room. I like to have like, maybe we could have like a red room, green room, purple room, you know, like blue room, you know, like, but it's an outside room. And I'm talking like flowers, like these are red flowers here, you know, these are yellow flowers here, these are blue flowers here, and we kind of use this as a way for your eyes to travel around and have something to see always, aesthetically pleasing as people come, because I want this to be a place where people do come in roundabout, pick up their plants from the greenhouse, whatever it may be, maybe moringa, maybe in bulk, but also maybe some flowers or succulents and herbs that we might start picking up our roster in our catalog. We're going to be able to supply the greenhouse with the plants that we're growing in the food forest, and now also thinking about the farm. So after coming around with all these little things, I'm like, man, like, just, I went to USF and it was just like, they always slap me around. Keep it straight, Kendrick, keep it straight. Cause I'm crazy. I'm out there, I'm wild. I'm like, woo! And they're like, no, this isn't Frank Gehry. You know, like you gotta like hone it back in, you know, bring it back in, create space. And I'm like, okay, let me just think about these layers here. Let me take a chill. Also productivity and that money, you know, wanting it to be able to fuel this as an investment property too. So maximum yields, but also not just stuffing it in, you know, like I see moringa farmers literally just doing it as close as this, you know, like as you would have plants in pots, you know, but I'm thinking about the health, the vitality of the trees and wanting to space them out, wanting them to get really big and mature, even if there is a freeze here and they get damaged back to the ground. Still wanting each moringa tree here to have enough space, knowing that, you know, we have, because moringa can be grown intensively in raised beds like you would a kale or a lettuce or anything like that. You can grow it just like, you know, 1 foot apart, 1 foot apart, 1 foot apart in a raised bed. We're going to do that. We're going to have a raised bed as an example to show people you can grow it like a grass or like a lettuce. But yeah, if you'd like to. Play with the kitties. There's Gandhi right there. He's cool. And so I just kind of like was like, all right, let me take some notes from farmers here in the area that are utilizing permaculture practices. So I have a PDC also. I have a 72-hour certification in permaculture design, and I took the course, and it taught me a lot about just these systems that we're talking about now, like the sun and the wind. And I've been kind of just feeling it out, you know, like watching the water rise, like knowing now that this is a little low spot that we can utilize for this little thing here that we're doing, this little project that we're doing today. So given the number of trees that we want, the amount of profit that we need from our moringa trees here on this property as a moringa growers co-op location. So we're not only the headquarters of the moringa growers co-op, but wanting to be in the co-op as a member, having moringa trees in the ground. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to use this tree and kind of just say, you know what, this is going to be our farm plot. This is going to just be the plot that we can use for farming. And then we have another little demarcation area here where the well kind of comes straight across, and this little area here is going to be where we just have nursery. And so we've kind of marked it out to where now we can bring plants straight across. Here we have like a little channel here visually to be able to bring plants across, and this is where we'll have our plants in pots staged in this area. Don't know how many plants we can get yet and how much, potentially, we could flip given sales and things like that. Like I said, this is going to be, a 5-year goal to get this to 2.5. Probably by the 5th year, we could probably get to 2.5. I mean, even if we just got to 1, I mean, that's fine. Like I wouldn't be discouraged. I'd be ecstatic. And so we're going to do 5 15-foot wide on 15-foot rows. So we're going to open them up so that way we can get a vehicle through there. I've been learning as a farmer. I started like real tight, like, I could just walk through this, But as I have been caring for a 40 moringa tree orchard just down the street from here for about 3 years, I see the ability for these trees to come back when they have the space and they have that raised bed. When they have a nice bed that they can pull from, constantly fresh nutrients, they also survive much better in the wintertime here.
So the beds that you're gonna do that, are they just the wood chips, or are you putting
Starting off, yeah, that's how we're starting the beds. And then we're gonna incorporate sweet potatoes, mushrooms, ground covers, yeah, and we're gonna do all those stuff to break that. We're just gonna, it's gonna sit there for probably 6 months. And we're just gonna let it sit and break down. We gotta get other plants in there before we even stick those sticks in there. So we're gonna do 5 raised beds here. Essentially, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then if we were to kind of even start over real quick. I mean, it's fine, really. I just want to have a stagger. I don't know if you can kind of see this stagger here that I'm doing of the moringa trees, where you have one, and then maybe go over 8 feet and you have another one, but on the opposite side on that same row you have one that's just kind of like in the middle of that, so that way they're staggered. The tree canopy will then stretch out further, so that way they fill the whole space. You can kind of see that, where the trees will then fill that whole space out.
And would you be growing like things in between the trees?
Oh yes, that's why I wanted to get like a little bit of a close-up one. So let's go ahead and talk specifically these raised beds. So let's just say that this piece of paper here is now just the farm. So we'll zoom in on the farm area. We got our little farmhouse here. Don't know what that is. Maybe farm stand, something. Maybe this is where we keep our fruit. This is where people can come in. Maybe like a Shannon's. I don't know if you guys know Shannon's. It's like a produce stand up the street from here. But maybe something like just a pavilion space where people can come in. And so then we have these raised beds. So right now, the first thing that we did actually was we put a raised bed here along the edge, and I did a 6-foot wide bed, and the trees are spaced 7 feet apart, and we have 30 trees currently right now in the ground since we've been here. Yeah. So they're in the back row. This is the northern edge here, the northern corner of the property. And so we currently have those trees there, and so we have these 5 beds. Well, what do we do? So I was thinking of that little spacing that I was telling you about here. Right. We're going to turn, there was a driving path that kind of like went right here. What I'm doing is actually I'm gonna keep it more along this back edge here, where this is going to be drive. So the raised beds will just kind of come to here. So that way we still have some circulation. So you'll kind of see that back there. We'll go over there. We got some beehives right now, right here. We need to move them into more sunlight because it still stays too shady for them over there. There's mites in the hives right now, so the bees are hanging out outside the hive because the mites are taking over. And that's because it's not in enough sun. It needs to be full sun all day, otherwise those mites are going to take over and those bees are going to be like, can't do anything. So wanting this to be a living a living bed, a living mulch bed that turns into soil. How do we incorporate other plants into these raised beds and these polycrop systems? And I was thinking possibly a line of what's called Mexican sunflower or tithonia in the center there. Have you ever heard of Mexican sunflower?
We've got some plants at home.
Yeah. Okay.
They grow like weeds.
Yeah. So we're thinking about having like a center line, because that way we can chop and drop. We can chop and drop that center line and drop it back down on the raised bed, so that way it has living mulch constantly in these raised beds. So every few months we can chop those back, lay it down. It's also weed suppression, and it's also fertilizer and minerals that we can constantly put back. And they're nitrogen fixers too. That's just one idea. And having these moringa trees that will then flow out and get these nice big crowns on them, because I'm gonna get them really nice and big here. I'm gonna space them out, so that way they kind of look like that. So that they're not too tight, lots of room. You'll see out there, there's lots of room, and we'll probably get out of all of this 100 trees. So 100 trees on a half an acre is about the spacing that I would recommend. Now you could probably, if you bordered all of it, so we may have a few more trees here. I was also thinking a pergola in front of each one of these raised beds here. I love pergolas. And so then maybe the pergola is also our garden beds. So then we have our kale, lettuces, and collards, cucumbers, and peppers and everything under these pergolas. So that way in the summertime, those pergolas, as the sun starts coming back up, act as an extended party. So it extends the season for all of our garden crops, and it's still getting the microorganism and activity that these trees are feeding it to. So like the raised beds here are going to be feeding those garden beds.
And the spaces in between, you said it's for vehicles to get in?
And so, this is possibly for go-kart, so I can have a go-kart track. I gotta have some fun out here too. Yeah. I never had a go-kart. I'm a city boy, I've been living out here in the country, and I'm like, man, what do I do? I need to get a dirt bike or something. So, and actually, my buddy's dad, the guy that I'm buying this property from, he used to do boxcar, like match car races, and he actually had a little track out here when he first bought this place like 10 years ago. They turned the front yard into a little dirt track. So like nursery men, they know how to have fun. We work hard, we plant some plants, but we also take lots of breaks and try to have fun in the day. So at least wide enough to say, because every year we're going to need to nutrify this area. So we're going to have big trucks come back here and dump mulch in these raised beds, so that way we can then move them back into the raised beds. So we have to have it wide enough. So we have this at 15 feet. And then we have these at 15 feet as well. And so that gives us enough space for both polycropping system, and so we might even be able to have like a line along the edge of here, also other plants and herbs that I like to grow too along the edges. These 15-foot raised beds, they're going to be hosts to at least 50 to 100 varieties of other plants inside this farm, that is then feeding the plant nursery that's just right here. And that's kind of where we came up with. Oh, and then remember I was mentioning like the public and private area. I'm kind of thinking about how to turn this back area maybe into like my little tiny home community. Maybe there's an office, maybe there's a little pond back there. Maybe there's a couple little tiny homes that we can bring back in there. And then also have a fence to maybe privatize this little area to where then this could be, because this is the most quiet. There's a creek back there, you can hear it running. It's really nice. We haven't even cleaned that part of the property out yet. It still has pots and plants still growing from 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago that I potted up when I worked here. And so that's Numa Farms. That's the plan for Numa Farms. Now you kind of have like a little bit of insight to where we are. Now you kind of know where we are here, and we'll take a little walk. Now see how far we've gotten in 10 months. We have some moringa tea here if you'd like to try.
It's good, by the way, try.
Thank you.